You guys, welcome in. We have a brand new episode of the Growth Grit Grind podcast today. If I can talk, we'll be able to make this thing work really well. But I've got a really good guest with me today, and I'm really excited. I've had a ton of business owners that have reached out to me that want to come on the podcast, that want to share their journey, their experience, what they've gone through. And ideally, the whole principle is to help each other, is that we can all learn from each other, the journeys that we've been down, maybe some of the mistakes we've made, but maybe also some of the good decisions that we've made and how we've had to navigate growth and things like that. So today I have Peter with me today, and Peter is the owner of Target ICT. And we're going to dive into exactly what that is, but that's what we're doing right now. Is Peter, I want to introduce you. I want to bring you in, and I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us about your current business. And then we're going to dive into your story.
All right, so thank you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
Who I am? Well, I think I've been in business for the past 13 years, if I can remember. What I do currently, like you said, is Target ICT. So when you look at business, the average business owner is not a tech nerd. They just go into business to fix a problem, scratch an itch, or do something, and they end up meeting tech products, meeting different things, and having to learn things that don't relate to what they are actually doing. So in the past, I've done a lot of businesses, and in almost all of them, tech has helped me do more than I could have done normally. And that's what Target ICT does. Target ICT helps businesses do more with tech than they could have done normally. That's basically it.
I mean, what's great about that is before we even started, we'll give people a peek behind the curtain. Is you were telling me about another software for podcasting. I mean, that you were already helping me look at some different options for us to be able to, maybe make our podcast even better. So that was a perfect example. But, in your bio that I was reading, like that's always been something that you have enjoyed. You told me that you were kind of a tech addict. Like you always liked learning about tech and exploring different things, and you did a little bit of that. Give us a little bit of your background. What did you do leading up to Target ICT? What did you do before that? I know you did a kind of a few different things, so tell us a little bit about what you did kind of before you landed on Target ICT.
Okay, I did a lot of things, honestly. Okay, so when I talk about being a tech addict, I think I've always been a very curious person. I remember when I was younger, I used to have this, this spiral things on the calendars in those days. And then I used to watch things like RoboCop, and there was once I put it in an electrical outlet, and I shocked myself. And those are the kind of things I used to be up to. I used to open everything up and all that. Yeah. So I remember when phones came out, I used to learn how to make ringtones on all of them. My mom bought me a laptop in 2006, and that's what got me into tech. It got me into learning a lot about tech. So going back into the things I've done previously, I've never had a job. I've never had a paycheck. I've been a bit fortunate. So the first thing I did was log in. I went into a forest, got some wood, and sold it in the and then processed it and sold it. But I did that just twice. I didn't like it. Then the first actual long-term business I did was web hosting, which is still tech. Started it. It wasn't really selling. Couldn't figure out how to sell then. So I started. I bought a DVD on how to build SMS websites, and using those SMS websites, when we build the SMS websites, people buy hosting to host the SMS website. So that's what just took the hosting business off. And that was just when I finished college. So I didn't really have to look for a job after that. So those were the first things. So would you like me to go on? Because there's a lot actually.
That's awesome. So I mean, you always, I think that's perfect. I mean, that gives us a glimpse into, who you are. I took a few things from that. I mean, you were a entrepreneur from the very beginning. You had different things that you were looking at, and you were trying to explore kind of exactly what you wanted to do. You knew you liked tech, but you didn't know exactly where you're going to land. And I think a lot of us, as business owners, like some of us have that backstory. Is like we don't really know. Like we know the kind of space we want to be in. I mean, us as a marketing and advertising agency, I grew up always enjoying film and the marketing
Wow.
space and understanding how it worked. And I would see advertisements for kind of what they were, but I never really looked at it as a business. I didn't really know how to shape it into a business. That really came later. You know, it all kind of developed and shifted me into that anyways. So you already had kind of that entrepreneur kind of vision and dream. Like you were already looking at that as you knew it was your path. You were just finding which road to go down, because there's so many of them. I mean, you could, in tech, you could go down any road that you wanted to. I mean, but you landing on one that actually kind of summarizes it is it's tech in general. Is like, we're going to show businesses how to utilize tech to make their lives better, make their businesses better. So what did that, like, taking, let's go to your current business of Target ICT. I mean, what, when you first kind of thought of that, I mean, obviously, you know, you were sitting back going, I love tech. Other people don't understand tech maybe like I do, or aren't as passionate about it. But
Yeah.
what were your first steps of like, I'm going to take this thing to market and I'm going to present it to businesses? What were those first steps like? Like, what did that look like for you when you initially had the idea of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to teach other businesses how to use tech. What did that look like, say, in the first 30 days when you're like, yep, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go do it. What did that look like for you?
I think basically what happened was that, okay, after the SMS and hosting I talked about, I started the grill, I started the restaurant, I started an e-commerce business, I started the procurement business. And the thing about all of them was that I always found a way to do more. Like I know back in 2014, before Zapier became popular, I used to use IFTTT, that's if this then that, to automate my order SMS and all that, so people don't copy and paste or anything. And I realized most times people would always ask, instead of asking about the business I was into, they would usually ask, oh, how do you do this? How do you manage to do this? How are you able to do so much? So at this point, I was having like 4 or 5 businesses at the same time with a very small team, and everything was just moving so well. So it was
Yeah,
always, yeah, people asked that question a lot. And I'm a very free person. I always tell, I'll just, okay, yeah, I do this, I do this, I do. And I realized, okay, see, this is actually a business idea. Because at a point, I got into a situation where I had to take some time off, and I realized, and at that point, doing all those things were overwhelming. It
sure.
was really overwhelming. So that's when I realized, okay, instead of doing all these things that honestly are not connected, they don't feed each other, or they are not really connected, they're just separate. Why don't I do
Right.
what most people ask me about? So I was in Leicester then. I was in the UK. Leicester, that's in the UK. So I registered the business, Target ICT. I think when I registered it, we already had a client already. That's the funny thing. I just registered it so we can't, because I didn't have any IT business. So I just wanted something that would, so if I'm doing an invoice or whatever, it just goes straight to the same business type. So I registered it. That was a law firm in British Columbia in Canada. That was a law firm we worked with then. So they had an old, their marketing was, okay, they started, but their marketing wasn't that good. So we had to look at what their issue was. First of all, it was their website. Basically, that was the biggest issue. Then their capturing of leads and everything was just off. They didn't have multilingual functionality. So the Chinese, they serve Chinese clients in British Columbia. So that was the first client. We sorted everything out for them, did it with the business. And one thing I've learned over the years doing business is, when I deal with clients, deal with customers and all that, I want a situation where we give them value more than they expect, because I've realized that's one of the most powerful ways of marketing. You don't really need to spend on ads at that point, because when you give customers value more than they expect, they would happily, without even you asking, they always refer. So from that first client and from friends and people, okay, people that used to ask, I'm like, okay, this is my business. Here's your invoice. So yeah, so from them and from
Yeah,
everyone else, it
exactly.
just got referrals. Yeah, referrals, and yeah, that was the first few days.
Yeah. No, and that's beautiful. I mean, it's something I used to. So I spent a long time, way too long, in construction management before I launched our agency, going on 4 years ago. And I'd always had my hand in kind of the marketing and advertising space of construction businesses. That was my job. It was recruiting, hiring, training, sales staff, labor staff, different things like that. But I always had like that piece of it. And something I always taught is exactly what you just said. Is I would use an example. I would take something like this. I would take a pen, and I wouldn't do the
Okay.
Jordan Belfort thing, sell me this pen. That was not what I did. Everyone did that when they were teaching salespeople. But what I would tell is I would hold up, a pen, and I would say, who would give me money for this pen? And someone goes, oh, I would give you $1, whatever amount that they would say. And I would go, great. Okay, give me your dollar. And then I would ask the question to the rest of the room, how much did that individual just tell me that this pen was worth? And most of the people would go, $1. They would say, he offered you $1, so it was worth $1. My response was, no. He told me that this pen was more valuable than his dollar. So it actually was worth more than his dollar. So I always tried to
True.
explain a value scale, if you will. And exactly what you're explaining is what I explain to a lot of even our clients, is that you have a value scale. You have a cost on one side and you have a value on the other. And if you can tip the scale where the value outweighs the cost, then people will buy from you and people will continue to buy from you. And that is
True.
exactly what you did in your business, is that you said, I'm going to provide so much value. And if that is in customer service or over delivering or exceeding expectations, I will always outweigh the cost of what my services are. And so people will continue to buy and they will refer business to me and keep coming back. So that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So how did that, going to that, picking up that first client and then it turning into some referral business, did that become your entire marketing plan for, like, how long is it still that way? Have you ever done any like large scale marketing or advertising, or has it always been exactly that, what you started from the beginning, that you market and advertise simply by over delivering to the customer and then they refer business to you? Is that what it still looks like today?
Yeah, that was how it started. That was how it started because previously I'd used most of the businesses I'd done had all used paid advertising. That's the food and everything else. But
Sure.
for this now, because of the way the business was structured at that first time, there wasn't really with the referrals. There was more than enough for me to do. Then with I got a small team, and we were growing till the pandemic came. The pandemic came, and yeah, a couple of things happened then, and so we had to restructure everything. And I realized that the way I was going about it what's the word, scalable, and it wasn't predictable. So I think that's the other word I'll use, because I just have to sit and wait for someone who has the good intention, or has a good intention or something, and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I want to refer this person to you." That's not really something you can build a real real long term business on. So I looked at everything, and I decided, okay, the best thing that we'll do is, okay, these services we already offer to people, because someone comes in, they say, "Oh, I want this." We work on that specifically. This one says, "Oh, I want this." We work on that specifically. I decided, okay, what we're going to do is to make these things they work on. Look at the things that most people want in their businesses, and look for a way to provide them where you don't have to customize it to each person. Yeah, I think that's what we did. Then talking about the marketing parts, it's still mostly referrals, but we have adverts on. Now we have adverts on, but the adverts are mostly retargeting adverts, not really to cold traffic. So many people that come to the
Gotcha.
website, probably people that have heard of us from somewhere else, we now target you, and okay, still here. Basically, that's
No, and that sounds like that's part of your kind of growth plan or your scale plan, is that you started initially. And I think that a lot of us do that, is like we don't have maybe a huge budget in the beginning, or we land
yeah.
our first couple of clients early on. And then from there, you have kind of a wave of referral business. One thing I found about business owners, they're typically friends and acquaintances of other business owners. So when you
True.
do a good job for one, typically they're in some type of network or a Facebook group or something like that, like how we met. They network and they talk to each other. And so when they see that they solved a problem, or they start talking about solving a problem, whether it be website automation or lead connectivity or Duolingo, they start realizing those problems were solved. They're going, hey, I know that you're not smart enough to do that. So who did it for you? And then they want to know who the guy is, and they're pointing back to
Yeah,
you. So then, as we hit a scale point where, like you said, everyone experienced some kind of craziness during COVID. We actually launched our business like full scale during COVID, which, hindsight. At the time, we're like, this is really not a great time to be asking businesses to spend more money, but it wind up being the perfect time for us because while other businesses were retracting and pulling back and going, we don't want to spend as much, we don't want to do as much, the businesses that we brought on were like, this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity. We work with, especially initially, we worked with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses that wanted to be larger businesses and wanted to compete with big box. And so their opportunity, while everyone was retracting, including big box, no one was spending as much advertising. That was their opportunity, their little window of like, we can come in here and make a name for ourselves. And that's exactly what we helped a lot of our businesses do. And all of them were seeing growth during COVID when they should have seen decline. And so, yeah, it was a challenge for everyone. But I think same with us is you have to, at a certain point, you hit a scale point like you did, is like, now it's time to continue growing, and you turn that little switch on, which in this case was some paid ad size for, retargeting website visitors and things like that. So what
yeah.
would you say, and it doesn't have to be necessarily during COVID, it could have been COVID, could have been afterwards. A lot of people face challenges then, but what types of challenges have you faced over the last few years of, trying to grow Target ICT? What challenges have you faced, and kind of how did you overcome those?
I think one of the biggest challenges is I'm an introvert. So for the past few businesses I had, they were all things where I didn't need to interact with people. They were okay, like e-commerce. I just import a product, put up a website, put up ads. Nobody knows I'm behind it. I've had 3 restaurant brands I opened. I don't know how to cook, so I'm really good at hiring. So I hired
That's good.
for the 3 of them. Yeah, for the 3 of them, same thing. Had really good branding, had really good food, had really good food, really good customer service, and yeah, basically. So that's what we did. That's what we did. What was the question again? Sorry.
The challenges, kind of challenges that you
Yeah,
faced just in growing those. It could have been your other businesses, but in particularly,
yeah,
Target ICT, just your challenges. So I think, and you're kind of down the track of just being kind of an introvert and how to overcome that.
yeah, exactly. Oh, my brain wanders a lot. So yeah, so I think going back to being
No,
an
you're totally
introvert.
fine.
So going back to being an introvert, okay, so I talked about the previous businesses. I didn't have to deal with people. I was trying to illustrate that and forgot where I was. So with Target ICT,
Yeah,
I've
no worries.
realized, okay, after the first, okay, dealing with the people I knew before, that was easy. But I realized over time, okay, I had to start going on calls, sales calls with people. And it's for the first few months, it was draining. It was draining. Like 1 hour before the call, I'm really tense. An hour after, I'm tense. In any day I have a call, I'm really tense. But I think I got used to that. Another thing was things in tech. One thing about tech is things change really, really fast. Like you feel you're a master
Sure.
in this, especially something like Facebook ads. We started using Facebook ads in, if I can remember, it was 2013 or so. That was for the second food brand I did. And it was so simple, just simple interface. You go in, plug in your whatever, and go out. 2 years later, you have this huge dashboard with all sorts of what they call it, in abbreviations and everything. So things change really, really fast in tech. So one thing I've learned is since I'm in the tech industry, I need to keep learning, which is easy because that's one thing I always do. I always learn. What else? What other challenges have I had? I think regulatory challenges, keeping on the good side of the law, taxes, things like that. I'm always paranoid
Sure.
about paranoid about getting in trouble with all that because I travel a lot. I travel a lot. Target ICT is incorporated in the UK, so I'm always okay. Am I resident now? Am I non-resident? Do I need to pay these? Okay, there was a point where I had to get registered for VAT. Had to fill in like do paperwork like this huge. So different things, regulatory challenges. Yeah, that's another thing. Then what else? Yeah, people challenges too. People challenges. Like I said, I've been lucky. I'll say maybe I've been lucky hiring people, so that hasn't been too bad. But I think the points after hiring, keeping the people you hire motivated, it's a learning curve, especially since I don't really deal with people every day. So having to get that connection with my team members and remind
Sure.
them of the vision every day and keep them invested in our growth and all that, that's something I've had to learn too over time. So that's those are the ones I can remember right now.
Yeah, no, those are perfect. I mean, I think that we all go through different levels of challenges, that we all face different things. And I think that you answered the question both ways. Being an introvert, you said, getting yourself out there and learning, and with tech, right? Tech, I mean, that's something that we deal with as well. You mentioned Facebook ads. I mean, it's people don't understand how much tech actually changes and how much applications change.
Honestly,
We were dealing with just last week some API changes that were rolled out that we have no control over. API changes and things that we have connected and that talk to each other just stop working, and we don't know until it happens. And so exactly with what you said is we have dedicated ourselves and our team to being consistently, consistent learners, is like diving into, we're part of the Meta Business Partner Program. We dive into some of their training. We watch for their releases that they put out. We subscribe to other trainings. We'll go out and buy trainings that are about the new rollouts and things like that. And we'll invest and spend time and money on that because we want to know as much as we can. So, I mean, it's a challenge that everyone faces. I think every business sometimes looks a little bit different. You mentioned taxes and things like that. I think that's a concern for every single, especially us that are, somebody that may have been in business for 25 years and they've got a giant, they're doing, $50 million a year. They got a team of people that are
yeah,
watching their backs and that are doing those things. But those of us that are scaling our businesses and working on growth, it's like we kind of have to tackle some of those things on our own. One of the first decisions I made was to hire a bookkeeper and a CPA because I didn't want to have to worry about it. But there are still moments you get around tax time and you go, what's this going to look like? Let me know. And I mean, I have a really good one that keeps us informed kind of throughout the year, but it's still, you want to make sure that you're following the kind of letter of the law. And that's one of those tricky areas because taxes in particular, they're not very black and white. There's a lot of gray areas in there that you go, I don't know. I don't know if this is okay or not okay, or can I write it off? Can I not write? Like there's some of those gray areas. And like I said, fortunately for me is I hired a CPA and a bookkeeper and I let them make those decisions. But you still have moments where even if you can have a good CPA and a good bookkeeper and they can also be doing things that you don't fully understand. And you
true.
go, well, I trust them, and it can wind up coming back and biting you in the rear end because you trusted them, but you didn't really know exactly what they were doing.
Exactly. And the buck stops
So
at your
no,
table.
that's awesome. I mean, yeah. Oh, it's 100%. It doesn't matter who was doing it. At the end of the day, it's your name on the door, so it still falls in your lap at the end of the day. So, yeah, good fun times, right? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to connect with that for sure. So, what is your just fast forwarding, kind of navigating those obstacles and those hurdles to continue to grow your business? So, you mentioned kind of building a team and doing that and learning to overcome kind of being that introvert person and things like that. But fast forwarding through that as your business continue to grow, like what's on the horizon for you guys? Do y'all have any particular focuses for 2024? Is anything changing in the business? Any new services? Anything you're trying to roll out, or is it business as usual and just keep securing clients? What does that look like for you guys going into 2024?
I think going into 2024 is basically business as usual. Like I said, we've been trying to make the services we offer into different products because, like, for where are we now, 2023? For almost 3 years, we haven't really updated our websites. So a lot of things there are not the things we offer at
Yeah.
the moment. So we're trying to just like I said, make these things we do into products so they're easier to fulfill, they're easier to scale. Going into 2024, we do retargeting ads, like I said, but I'm thinking we would be going into doing cold ads to cold traffic. Ads to cold traffic. So that'll mean, like I said, rejigging everything. Then what else? About being out there, I think when I started taking sales calls after the business, so in a way to what do they call it? Make it more comfortable. More comfortable. That was when I started a podcast you mentioned earlier. So June, if you look online before June, July this year, you won't see any video of me or anything online. I hated the idea. I definitely hated the idea. But I think it's when I started, and after the first two or three, oh, I actually love it. I actually love it. And so then going into 2024, you'll see a lot more of me online. I think that's part of
Yeah.
it.
But I think it ties into your, even ties into your, kind of your kind of introvert, like you a little bit of that introverted personality. I think that, you mentioned doing the podcast, and I think that
Yeah,
you doing that was another step for you that's getting you outside of kind of your comfort zone, but still being able to talk
exactly.
about what you're very passionate about. So that is another, I mean, that is you as an entrepreneur making that decision of like, this is not my comfort zone, but I'm going to go do it because number one, it could educate my audience. It could bring us business, but it also helps me further myself as well. So I think that's
True.
awesome. That's awesome that you're doing that.
Yes, really true.
So, and you also mentioned something key there too, and it's something that we're working on as well. And I think people can take things from is that we start our businesses in one fashion, and we build our businesses out. For example, for us, and it's the same for you. You mentioned the exact same thing, and you hit the nail on the head. Even for me, is trying to systematize, or I don't want to say the word condense because that's probably the wrong word, but to put things in the box they belong in or put them in the bucket that they
Yeah.
belong in. Our offerings for even us have been like, we have all these different things that we can do. We have paid ads, we have creative, we have SEO, PPC, Facebook ads. Like you have all these different things. And we would try to go into each situation of customization, and we felt like that was our key selling point. Was it's completely custom to you, completely custom to you. But the reality is it was almost too many. It was too many options. Number one, it could be overwhelming to the client, and number two, it really came back to fulfillment. Is that because it was customized, that meant every single rollout for every single client was completely customized. And for efficiency purposes, it just did not make sense. And it's something we've gone back to the drawing board as well. And we've gone, how do we fit what we do into one of like maybe three options instead of eight? How do we really condense that down? And yes, every client is still a little bit different, and we do have clients that have different needs, but how do we fit their needs, but also be able to systematize what we do to be more efficient for our clients? So I think that you guys doing that is, again, another thing that you as an entrepreneur, as the business owner, as the guy at kind of the front of the ship, that you're seeing those things ahead, and how do we fix those, and how do we make those more appealing to our clients, but also at the end of the day, make our lives easier by making our clients' lives better. Does that make sense?
Really true.
So what are you guys, fast forwarding, kind of that's what you're working on, for 2024. If you had to give, and this is kind of us in closing, we're sitting at almost the 30-minute mark, which it kind of flew by, man. I've enjoyed talking to you. What if you had to give a single piece of advice to an entrepreneur, a business leader, someone maybe starting their business, or someone maybe even down the road several years that's struggling, what single piece of advice would that be from your experience?
I always ask this question, and I've never really thought of it myself. But from what I said previously, and from when I think back through my story, one thing that's really helped me is I'll say if you're in business, if you're just starting, if you're further down the road or anything else, what I'll say is keep learning. Always be learning, especially in this current environment. Keep testing new things. When you learn, don't stick to what you learned. Try it out, test it against the real life. Because something I learned about, especially business plans, you write business plans, and when real life hits it, it's going this way. So keep testing, keep trying new things, because
Exactly.
the comfort zone, like you mentioned, is where things go to die. So always, when you feel comfortable, leave your comfort zone, learn new things, try new things, keep growing. That's what I'll say.
That was incredible. I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm a fan of that. I am a student of that myself, and I firmly believe in that. And I believe in that for our team as well. And I think a lot of people can take something from that. Peter, tell people listening, if they want to find out more about you, if they want to find out more about Target ICT, if they want to check your podcast out, can you tell the folks where they can find those things at?
All right, so for Target ICT, you can find it at our website, targetict.co.uk. But I think where you find more of me is the podcasts. Because, like I said earlier, I love sharing. And before I even started this business, I've always had a blog. Just anything I learn, I share with people I know I always share. So that's what I use the podcast for. I come on every episode. On the solo episodes, I come up and take complex tech terms like maybe blockchain or cybersecurity, break it down so even a 6-year-old can understand it. And so business owners can just learn about those different things. Then apart from that, so I bring up different guests who have business owners, other tech experts come in, share your own stories so they are relatable with other business owners. So I think the podcast will be the best place to learn, connect with me. So that's at techyourbusinesspodcast.com. So you go on there, you can connect to our
Easy enough.
socials there. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Peter. I just want to say thank you for taking some time out to jump on the podcast today. There was so many good things in there, and I can't wait to see the cut that comes back from this because there was a lot of really good stuff in there. So I want to just thank you for being on here, and I want to encourage anyone that's listening to go check Peter out. Go check out Target ICT. If your business is one of those that you've struggled with tech, if you have broken things in your system, you have broken things in your automation, you have things broken on your website, and you're not the person to figure it out. Peter's the guy. Give Peter a shout, reach out to him on their website. That way you can inquire and find out exactly what they do and how they might be able to help you. So Peter, I just want to say thank you again for being on here, man. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Have a happy holiday. And again, thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me.